Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Commodity Insights podcast with the crew at Farmers Trading Company. Today, you got Andrew and me, Connor, bringing you this episode. Vince is out with a new knee, so it's just us two today. But pretty ugly day in the grains here. The soybeans were the biggest leader and getting beat up there. It looks like the March soybeans were down 18 and three quarter at the end of the day here, and the November beans were down 12 cents. Corn was down 9 cents in the May contract there, and the new crop December corn was down 7 cents. Looking into the livestock here, it was a pretty quiet day, but the May feeders were up a buck, unchanged in some of them further months out. Live cattle looks like the April lives were up 40 cents. Get further out, looks like they were all up a little bit, other than the February, but I think that's going off the board here pretty quick. Other than that, though, it's been looked like the grains were trying to maybe put in a bottom here earlier in the week, but that sure changed today. What do you think happened today, Andrew? Just more fun selling, or what kind of beat the markets up so bad?
Yeah, Connor, it looks like it was the majority of it was fund selling. We had a little bit of bearish news out there. South America, they got some okay rain in Brazil and Argentina over the last couple of days. Not enough to do this to the market by any means, or at least by my estimation. There is a crop tour going on down in Brazil. It'd be comparable to like the US's Pro Farmer crop tour, and they did say that they're not going to lower their South American production estimates quite as much as like Dr. Cordonier or some of the others down there are saying. So that could be part of what we're looking at, just their crop tour saying things like that. I don't think it's really enough to move the market myself, or that it's enough data at the moment, but I guess the market does what the market does. I haven't seen the most updated commitment of traders report, but we've got to be getting very close to that record net short position in both corn and beans there. And I want to say that we have over a 3 billion bushel net short position between corn, beans, and wheat, if I read that correctly here a while
Mhm.
back.
And so, looking at those charts here after today, it looks like we kind of broke out and made some new lows in a lot of them. Is there a level here we should be looking for support in the beans or the corn market here, or is there just, it seems like we're kind of falling into no man's land on that chart a little bit?
Yeah, we're awfully close to that no man's land. If you look at like an old crop soybean, I'm still on the March chart here. You look at the May low of last year, that would have been 11.45 and a quarter. So could there be another 15 cents down in that market? Absolutely, it wouldn't really take a whole lot. And then new crop soybeans, we actually did not break the low that we put in a couple days ago last week. So could we be finding some support there? Yeah, we still could be. We filled in the gap that we put in on the Monday night when the trade opened back up. So
Mhm.
technically, we've done all we need to the downside if it wants to be a bull market. The key word there is if. Corn market, it's an ugly one there, breaking out of just about everything you can imagine to draw. Uh, where the next number will be, I think you look at $4 as psychological support on that March contract. And then as far as the May, once we start rolling into that thing late this week, first part of next, is 420, 418 is a number that Vince always likes to use. Could that act as support for us? Time will tell there. New crop corn, 450, I think could be a psychological number for us. You look at the D's 24 corn chart. I think I need to zoom in on my chart here a bit, but there's a few things that could be perceived as gaps. Depends on how your charting software does its stuff. But could people be looking at filling some of that stuff in? It sure could be. So hard to give really exciting news at the moment here, other than you look at the weather that we're having right now across the Midwest. It's a warm, dry winter. That's very similar to the winter of 2011, early 2012, before that nationwide 2012 drought. And there are weather models out there calling for a very hot and dry summer this summer. So could we mirror the 2012 drought? I'm not going to say that we will, but I think we need to keep that in the back of our mind with the drought that we are in here in the US.
Mhm. Yeah, that drought is certainly something to keep in mind going into planting here. Looking into this next week, though, is there any news that we should be looking forward to hearing, or anything, any reports coming out in the next week for the grains?
March option expiration is going to be a big one in the grain market. Once we get through that and all those call options expire worthless that people were buying, most likely the spec funds were selling those options. Then could you make an argument for things going higher? I think once you get through this March option expiration and even maybe the March 1st notice day next week, Thursday, then you could start seeing some optimism in this thing. But otherwise, until then, it's going to take some world event to pop us up in the next couple of weeks from the looks of it.
And looking into the cattle market here, is there anything that a guy should be looking forward to in that market coming up in the next week? Any reports or anything other than just cash sales and what they're doing?
Well, we've got a cattle on feed report coming out this Friday afternoon, and what that means for us. I think they're going to look at cutting placements again and everything else as well. I'd be surprised if they didn't. So what does that mean for the trade this week? People will be getting ready for that just in case it does happen. And will there be some people hedging today or selling this week? And then if the market opens higher next week, Monday, will they just be letting themselves get stopped out a buck higher or something like that? I think you could see that. And if it is at all a bullish report, it could really artificially drive the market higher just because of all the people letting themselves get stopped out Monday morning next week. So cattle on feed, that's something that we will be keeping an eye on. Cash sales, I haven't seen a whole lot of those to start out the week yet. Sounds like people are fairly optimistic out there, but I haven't seen anything reported yet. And I'm guessing the Packer's going to hold out as much as he can to buy cattle before this report, if possible.
And from a chart perspective on those two cattle markets, is there anything a guy should be looking for? I know there were some gaps on the live cattle charts. Did we ever get those filled or?
No, we're still looking to fill in the gap on the April live, for example. That gap would get filled at 190.27 and a half. Today we got up to 188.90, so we're getting close. And then as far as like a feeder cattle chart, could you be looking for the 78% retracement of that big move that we've had? That would put it at like 257 on the March. Is that possible given what the cash sales have done? I don't think you can ignore it. It can do anything it wants at this point with how overbought it is.
And if the grains keep going lower, is the thought that that's going to keep driving the cattle market higher?
That's a lot of the conversation that I've heard. Whether or not it's because correlation causation is to be seen, but that's what a lot of people are talking about.
Mm-hmm. And looking into that hog market a little bit, is there anything a guy should be looking for technically in that market, or any news you heard this week in the hog side of things?
If you open up an April hog chart, you can maybe go ahead and say that you're working on the fifth leg up in an Elliott 5-wave count. So you started the bottom leg in early January, and then you ran up until third week in January, and then you sideways sold, and then you ran up again, sold off, and now we're on what would be a fifth leg up. And where does that measure to? Then you could start looking at some of the contract highs there. And I think a lot of people in some of the more deferred contracts are looking at $100 hogs. Again, today the July hogs made it to 99.52. And really, if by the end of this week you don't break above $100 and get a close above there, then you could look at this thing maybe being a toppy market. But until then,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say a person sits on their hands.
Okay. And anything else you're seeing out there in the commodity world? Any other interesting charts or things that a guy should keep an eye on, maybe?
Yeah, I look over at the crude oil market just for guys that are looking to protect some fuel prices and when do you buy fuel and things of that nature for the farm. And the crude oil market, it's bull spreading. The gasoline market's doing what the gasoline market does. And then the diesel market, though, the heating oil, that is bear spreading today, which has been an interesting one. It's
Hmm.
been doing that a fair amount the last couple of weeks. As far as the chart goes on that thing, you broke below some what I would consider a decent trend line support on the March contract today, and it's going to settle and close below that from the looks of it. And so then where do you look from there? The 200-day average, maybe a different trend line further down, but it's starting to get a little closer to oversold in that diesel market. From my farm myself, I'm going to try and buy some diesel probably later on this week and get enough to get myself through planting and spraying and all that. So get myself to harvest.
I think that's some good advice there. Anything else you want to add here? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap this one up and and go from there and see what the week holds.
Yeah, I haven't really seen a whole lot else. It's a fairly quiet week. Fund traders seem to like selling grains, and cattle guys seem optimistic. So we'll see what happens.
Yep, we'll see where this week takes us. Thanks to everyone who listens to this, and feel free to share it, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. All of that stuff helps us make this content, and hopefully we can start making more of it and go from there. Thank you.